Welcome to our first official online class. So today we're going to be doing a bunch of things that relate to the chapter that deals with communicating with employees. And you're also probably going to want to meet with your team members so that you can try to have an idea of what different product or service that you plan to use so that you can be ahead of the game and can start thinking about the other aspects of the project. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is because of our timing, I wasn't able to go through chapter 5 that walks us through the idea of case studies. So I'm going to quickly go through those slides that I was going to go over, but I didn't. So this first slide dealing with chapter 5 is considering the context and selecting a channel of communication. Now this, the content in chapter 5 might have seemed familiar if you're used to taking, or if you've taken in the past a communications course, because it deals with the channels of communication and then how or what type of message you should be sending. So for example, organizational context. This is where you need to make sure that when you are delivering or trying to create a message, a business message to send to your audience, you want to make sure that it's appropriate in context. So you want to keep in mind the social rules, the type of dress of the organization, the different kinds of nonverbal communication the organization might have, just the basic organizational culture. So that's why it says communicators must analyze the context of communication situation to identify factors that need to be taken into account when formulating a message. So you just want to make sure that you're aware of some of the organizational context before you develop your message. The next thing is the organization's culture. And this is just keeping in mind the organizational culture that, or the message that, or the location that your message is going to. So is the organization innovative? Do they take risks? Do they have attention to detail? Are they outcome oriented, people oriented, team oriented? Do they tend to be assertive or aggressive? Is it a stable company? That should possibly be reflected in your message as well when you're looking at the context. Now, thinking about the flow of information within an organization, typically there's still the top-down type of organization, which you can see from this illustration, but there's also a lateral communication flow as well, or horizontal communication flow as well, where employees from same levels will be developing messages for one another. And then there's always that informal grapevine type of information flow within an organization that you have to be aware of too. And that's more so that rumors aren't spread or that information or messages are not misconstrued. This slide has to do with communication channels. And as you can see here, there are 3 different communication channels, and based on those communication channels determines the richness of the channel and what types of messages you would want to send. So if you want two-way face-to-face messages, you would do that if you're having informal conversations, interviews, oral presentations, speeches, video conferences. The reason why is you'll be able to get instant feedback, you'll see the nonverbal signs, and you'll have that personal connection. This is good when you're dealing with sensitive information or unpleasant news. The two-way, not face-to-face, would be a telephone conversation or online chats. This is where you get instant feedback. You don't get that nonverbal language, but you do have real-time connection. This lacks the nonverbal elements, so you have to make sure that you're especially clear. And then finally, the one-way, not face-to-face messages. Those are our letters or memos or emails, our electronic communication, faxes, voicemails, web pages. This is more permanent, as it mentions, and official. This is something that a lot of times will help with keeping a permanent record, but it lacks all the nonverbal and instant feedback, so you don't exactly know if your receivers got the message that you intended to send. So based on that, you have to figure out how you're going to choose a communication channel and medium. So you have to think about how rich is the channel or what type of message that you're sending. Would it be better for you to get feedback? Is it better that you don't or do you not need to have that instant feedback? Is time an issue? Is there interpretation where you need to like clarify things? So you might need to make sure that you can provide feedback right away. Also, costs that are involved, the different types of amounts of information that you're sending, the idea of having a permanent record, and then what type of control do you need over the message? So those are things to consider. So right now, we're going to start talking about analyzing case studies, and we're going to develop a strategic communication plan. So I want you to stay tuned, and I'll go into details for those specific elements, and that will help you with today's class. Thank you. We're moving forward to looking at this handout called Analyzing Case Studies, and I've actually shared this with you on Google Drive or Google Docs, but I wanted to explain it to you because you are going to be in tomorrow's class analyzing a case study, and you'll be sharing your ideas with others through discussion boards. So first of all, when you look at a case study, you're going to, first of all, the first step that you take is to define the case problem and write a problem statement. So you want to make sure that you are thorough and you look for all the facts. You're going to then, after you indicate those facts, you're going to write a problem statement. And you want to make sure that it includes the major points that make the case what needs to be solved in this case, or what could help the case in this situation. The second step is to consider relevant information and underlying assumptions. Now in this case, there's going to be a lot of information, and you're going to want to make sure that you put down all relevant information and underlying assumptions. You'll probably do this in rank and order based on the critical issues. You might also just put these points in bullet points just to remember and to point out all the relevant information and underlying assumptions. The third step is to list possible solutions to the problem. So in this case, you're going to brainstorm. You're going to brainstorm solutions to this problem. It doesn't matter if they're extreme or obvious. You just want to make sure that you have at least 3 or more ideas. It's good to just make a whole list of bullet points so that you can think about different solutions and kind of think outside the box. Step 4 is selecting a solution and preparing to defend it. This is when you actually make a recommendation to your audience of what you think would be the best solution for the situation. You want to try to, if you can, you need to defend your recommendations, and you also want to possibly play devil's advocate just in case someone might question why you felt that this is the best solution. So again, you need to defend it and kind of think of what would be some objections to your solution. And then finally, step 5 is decide how to implement the solution. So in this case, you'll have to figure out exactly what or how to implement the solution. And this is going to happen in some form of communication. You're going to be solving this problem, and ways that this person in the case would end up needing to solve the problem. So after you complete these 5 steps, you've actually successfully analyzed a case study. And I have this example, this 8K and G products case study. So basically, you'll be able to read this and go through as you look over this on your sheet. Kind of an interesting, short little story. But in this case, I have some examples of what a case study analysis would look like. So notice here in step 1, there's 4 points, and there's a problem statement that kind of indicates everything in a concise manner. The relevant information and underlying assumptions have a list of all the different things that can be assumed. Also, you want to have all the possible solutions to the problem. I didn't include these, but basically you can say from the underlying assumptions what some of the solutions may be, and then selecting it and then deciding how to implement. Now, I will end up having some examples or an example of how or the detail that you need to have, but you want to be as detailed and reflective as possible when you're doing a case study analysis. What you'll end up doing is you'll end up going to a worksheet. I'm going to click to this and move it over. So you're going to have this case study analysis sheet. This is where you're going to write your information, include all the steps. And it'll probably go over to 2 pages, but that's okay. Just take as much space as you need to be reflective, and then you'll be able to define the case, write the problem statement, consider relevant information, list the possible solutions, select the solution and defend it, as well as implement. And then from there, because the implementation is related to communication, you'll end up using another form, which is your strategic communication form. And this strategic communication plan is something that you'll be using throughout the next couple of weeks, where you'll be looking at the format of the message. And this is that whole idea of what channel to select for your message, how should they communicate to their publics, and the next would be the desired outcome. So what outcome is desired from the message? How should the audience respond? What are the desired actions? The next part of strategic communication plan is making sure that you prove that you're credible. So this would be the credibility of in the case of the case study that you're going to do, the president and why they should listen to his message, and what makes him credible. The audience is, you want to consider who the primary audience is. What do I know about the audience that may affect the message? And we talked about that on Wednesday's class, as well as what does this audience already know, need to know, expect, and feel. The next one is message. So you want to think, what does my audience need to know or be able to respond to the desired outcome? And you want to put 2 to 3 specific points. You want to indicate, is a message going to be direct or indirect, and why? And then finally is, what's the audience norms, preferences, attitudes that must be considered, and how must the message be adapted to honor and respect any cultural or demographic elements? At this point, you're ready to start your online class. I wanted to tell you that I've updated this course website under course projects, under team project. I revised the team project guidelines because there were some discrepancies now that we're doing a video presentation that I wanted to make clear. Also under business plan proposal, I have examples of previous projects included there, and I've included the information for how to format letters and memos in this section, along with the template, the proposal grade sheet, as well as the expectations. I've also included under business plan presentation some examples of PowerPoint slides as well. I plan to add to that with some of the newer presentations that I have, but I wanted to let you know that they were included. I will be updating the course leadership outline and presentation just to make sure that it's makes sense in terms of our video presentation instead of the in-class presentation. Under week 1, Thursday is not included. Oh, because I'm set up as a student. Let me stop that. Okay. Apologize. So under week 1, you'll see our class. This is the video that I'm playing for you right now. It's in this folder. This is the information on the chapters that you're going to be reading, or the chapter you're going to be reading, depending upon which edition you have. This is a reminder about the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. And here's your activity dealing with conflict. In here you have the instructions, the case study, and the 2 worksheets. And in this section are discussion questions that you need to respond to at least 4 questions, at a minimum of 4. And either responding to the questions, tailing or piggybacking off other people's comments, but you'll be responding to a total of 4 at minimum. You can always do more, but not less. So that is for our Thursday class. I've also went ahead and looked at week 2, and I put together information for our Monday class. I still have to put the video together, but pretty much It's just going to be about watching presentation, going through the activities of Are You a Leader with the leadership blog. But our big day is going to be Tuesday. And Tuesday, there'll be a video. This is something I'm going to be deleting. You're also going to be reading. You'll see that there's a leadership blog that you'll be responsible for, and then specific activities that are related to the proposal. I've also included in the calendar when items are due, so this will help you get everything organized, I hope. And it should be well organized, and hopefully you can get around. I'm going to complete chapter 2 probably over the weekend, and I will, or in the next couple of days, and I will make sure that everything is ready to go. So I hope you enjoy your online class, and I look forward to seeing you soon. We'll schedule a Google Hangout for your team sometime next week, and have a very happy 4th of July holiday. Take care.